The church Jesus built is spiritual and is not represented on earth by corporate entities or mega structures in all of their glory. The Christian churches established by Satan through Constantine are now spread throughout the world. These churches exist only on earth. These institutional churches receive financial and political support from the beast whom is empowered by Satan, identified in chapter 17 of the book of Revelation. Viewed as immortal structures, these cathedrals, domes, and corporate churches are highly praised and esteemed by man. These physical structures and corporate entities have become idols worshipped by Christians. The weekly sacrifices of tithes and offerings to the corporate church is no different from the sacrifices that were given to pagan Babylonian and Persian gods. Who and what exactly is the fictitious corporate church entity? Follow the money, and these questions will be answered. Simply follow the money trail, and you will discover who consumes church revenues and what is purchased. Usually, the person that owns a controlling number of corporate stocks is the real owner of the corporation and its assets. The real owner of the corporate church is the one that reaps the exclusive benefits derived from church revenues. Not surprisingly, this is not you. Clearly, only the prosperity preacher benefits from the collection and expenditure of the millions of dollars in church revenues. With the approval of the corporate church board of directors, the prosperity preacher legally obtains exclusive use and possession of fine clothing, luxury cars, living estates, airplanes, and unlimited bank accounts. The prosperity preacher's statement that your finances are being given to God is clearly absurd. A more accurate description would be, you have been pimped. I have yet to see God at the mall. The prosperity preacher and his corporate church both receive and consume all church revenues. However, the spiritual inventories of both resemble a vacant warehouse, empty. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. Matthew chapter 23, verse 38. By placing legal title of church assets and revenues in the name of the corporate church entity, the profiteering preacher attempts to create the illusion that he has no control of church assets and revenues or how these resources are used. The incorporation of the church establishes an illusionary shield which deceptively attempts to show that the profiteering preacher has no ownership or exclusive use of monies and diverse properties collected by the church. This ownership scheme is necessary to curtail any public criticism directed at the preacher for collecting millions of dollars from the poor and needy used for his personal consumption. This entire attempt at hiding a P, that is tithe money, is merely an attempt to disguise holy greed and avoid public condemnation for taking from those in dire financial need. If the collection of tithes and offerings for the exclusive use of the preacher was a commandment of the God of Abraham, the example of Paul should be followed. The apostles took direct ownership and member contributions. When commanded by God, there is no residue of guilt from selfish greed nor attempt to avoid public criticism. As mentioned above, when the apostle Paul walked the earth, God did authorize that apostles have direct ownership of the personal property of believers. As a matter of fact, Scripture describes how a man and his wife fell dead for withholding a portion of their earnings from the apostles. These apostles never attempted to disguise their personal possession of church revenues, nor did they attempt to avoid direct possession of the asset they received from the congregation. This was unnecessary because they never intended to convert these revenues for their exclusive personal use. The difference between contemporary prosperity preachers and the Apostle Paul is that Paul and the disciples that followed Paul's leadership example obeyed God's instruction regarding the use of church revenues they collected. Paul and his disciples redistributed church revenues equally amongst the congregation so that no one was in need of anything. Today, the vast majority of preachers consider themselves as, quote, professionals, end quote, and receive a corporate salary from congregational tithes and offerings. As mentioned above, the church is now a business and operated as such. What Paul clearly instructed the Thessalonians not to do, that is, being a burden on the brethren, is now standard practice of the modern institutional church and its false apostles. The practice of weekly tithing opposed by the Apostle Paul is now a viable tradition by the majority of today's churches. However, this tradition is in direct disobedience to Jesus and Paul's instruction and example.